It was a chilly October morning when I first noticed the strange behavior of my husband, Mark. He had always been the kind of man who was open about his feelings, but lately there was a change. I watched as he paced back and forth, his brow furrowed, his phone always clutched tightly in his hand. I tried to brush it off, telling myself that maybe he was just stressed from work. But deep down, I felt a growing sense of unease. As the days went by, Mark's distant behavior only worsened. I could see the worry lines deepening on his forehead, and he seemed to forget the little things, like our dinner dates or the way we used to laugh together. It was as if he had built a wall around himself, and no matter how hard I tried to break through, he remained unreachable. I could feel the distance between us growing, and it scared me more than I wanted to admit. One evening, I decided to confront him. "Mark, is everything okay?" I asked, my voice trembling slightly. He paused, glancing at me with a mix of surprise and frustration. "Of course everything is fine," he snapped, but I could see it in his eyes. The truth was lurking just beneath the surface. I felt my heart race as I tried to read his expression, searching for any hint of what was really going on. That night, I lay awake in bed, staring at the ceiling, my mind racing. What was happening to our marriage? I couldn't shake the feeling that there was something he wasn't telling me. As I closed my eyes, I envisioned the happy times we had shared. Our first date, the day he proposed, the birth of our beautiful daughter, Lily. Those memories felt like they were slipping away, replaced by an unsettling darkness. The following week, I decided to take matters into my own hands. I had to know what was going on. When Mark left for work, I gathered the courage to search through his things, my heart pounding in my chest. I found his phone tucked beneath a pile of clothes, and after a moment's hesitation, I unlocked it. My hands trembled as I scrolled through his messages, praying to find something that would explain his behavior. But what I found shocked me. There were countless messages between Mark and another woman. They were filled with flirty banter and secret plans. My heart sank as I read their exchanges, each word piercing me deeper than the last. I felt sick to my stomach, overwhelmed with a mix of betrayal and despair. How could he do this to me? How could he betray the love we had built over the years? I put the phone down, my hands shaking. I needed to confront him, to demand answers. But a part of me felt frozen, terrified of the confrontation that awaited. Instead, I gathered myself and took a deep breath, reminding myself that I had to be strong, for Lily, if nothing else. I needed to protect my daughter from this unraveling nightmare. When Mark came home that evening, I acted as if everything was normal. We sat at the dinner table, Lily happily munching on her pasta, but I felt a storm brewing inside me. As he chatted about his day, I could hardly focus on his words. My mind was racing, preparing for the inevitable showdown. I knew I couldn't keep quiet any longer. Finally, after dinner, I took a deep breath and turned to him. "Mark, we need to talk." He looked at me, surprise etched across his face. "About what?" he asked, feigning innocence. I felt my heart race as I locked eyes with him, my voice trembling but resolute. "I know about the messages," I said, barely able to contain my anger. "Who is she?" His expression shifted instantly. The facade he had built crumbled as he realized I had uncovered his secret. "I can explain," he stammered, but I wasn't going to let him off that easily. "Explain what? How you've been lying to me?" My voice rose as I felt the heat of betrayal wash over me. "How could you do this?" He tried to reason with me, but I could see the guilt etched on his face. "It's not what you think. I didn't mean for it to happen." His excuses felt hollow, and I felt a wave of anger flood over me. "You're right. It's not what I think. It's worse," I shouted, tears streaming down my face. "You've been cheating on me." Mark looked defeated, his eyes darting around as if searching for a way out. "I made a mistake, okay? It was just a fling." His words hit me like a punch to the gut. How could he dismiss our entire life together as just a mistake? I felt my heart break all over again, and I didn't know how to process the pain. As we argued, I thought about Lily, who had retreated to her room, sensing the tension. I could feel the walls closing in around me. I had to think of her, to protect her from this chaos. "I can't do this anymore, Mark," I finally said, my voice barely a whisper. "I need time to think." With that, I turned and walked away, leaving him standing there, stunned. I didn't want to hear his pleas or his promises to change. I needed space to gather my thoughts, to understand how everything had spiraled so out of control. That night, I curled up in bed with Lily, whispering sweet reassurances to her as I fought my own demons. The next few days were a blur. I tried to keep things normal for Lily's sake, but inside, I was crumbling. Each time I saw Mark, my heart ached with betrayal. He attempted to talk, to explain, but I couldn't bear to listen. I needed time to process everything, to figure out what I wanted for my future. As the days turned into a week, I started to notice things that I had overlooked before. Mark's late nights at work, the subtle changes in his routine. How had I not seen the signs? The realization that our entire life had been a lie felt like a weight on my chest, suffocating me. I found myself longing for the comfort of my old life, the one where we were a happy family. One evening, while scrolling through social media, I stumbled upon a photo of Mark with that woman, laughing together at a bar. Anger surged through me like wildfire. How could he move on so easily while I was left to pick up the pieces? I felt a determination rise within me. If he wanted to play games, then I would be ready. I decided to reach out to that woman. I needed answers, and I wasn't afraid to confront her. I found her Instagram account and sent her a direct message, my heart racing as I typed, "I know about you and Mark. I want to talk." I hit send, my heart pounding in my chest. It felt empowering to take control of the situation, to refuse to let him dictate my emotions any longer. The next day, I received a reply from her. "Let's meet. I didn't know he was married." The words felt like a knife to my heart. Part of me wanted to believe her, but another part was skeptical. I arranged to meet her at a local cafe, my stomach churning with anticipation and fear. When I arrived, I spotted her sitting at a table, fiddling nervously with her coffee cup. She looked younger than I had imagined, her wide eyes reflecting uncertainty. As I approached, I felt the weight of the moment settle heavily on my shoulders. "You're Jenna?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. She nodded, biting her lip. "I'm so sorry about everything," she started, her voice barely above a whisper. "I didn't know he was married until recently." Her honesty surprised me, and for a moment, I softened. "How did it even happen?" I asked, wanting to understand how Mark could betray our family so easily. She took a deep breath, her gaze dropping to the table. "We met at work, and he seemed so charming. He told me he was separated and living apart from his wife." I felt my stomach churn again at his lies. "It all happened so fast," she continued, tears brimming in her eyes. "I never meant to hurt anyone." As she spoke, I felt a strange mix of anger and pity. It was clear she had been deceived just like I had. "So, what now?" I asked, my heart pounding. "Are you still seeing him?" She shook her head, her voice breaking. "No, I ended it when I found out. I can't be part of a lie." The conversation lingered in the air between us, thick with unspoken emotions. I realized I wasn't just confronting Mark's betrayal. I was also grappling with the reality of my own pain and the impact it had on my life. "I don't know what to do next," I admitted, my voice trembling. "I feel lost." Jenna reached across the table, her eyes filled with empathy. "You're stronger than you think. You deserve better than this." Her words struck a chord, igniting a flicker of hope within me. Maybe this was the turning point I needed to reclaim my life. After our meeting, I returned home feeling a mix of emotions: anger, sadness, and a newfound determination. I knew I had to face Mark and demand the respect I deserved. As I walked through the door, I found him sitting on the couch, his expression a mixture of guilt and worry. "Where have you been?" he asked, his voice tight. "I've been trying to reach you." I took a deep breath, steadying myself for the confrontation. "I met with Jenna," I said, watching his face drain of color. "I know the truth now, and I'm done with the lies." He opened his mouth to respond, but I raised my hand to stop him. "I don't want to hear your excuses. You broke our family, and I need time to figure things out." his face twisted in anger, but I stood my ground, refusing to let him manipulate my emotions any longer. That night, I finally felt a sense of clarity. I knew I needed to protect my daughter from this chaos, and that meant making some hard decisions. I started researching divorce options, gathering information on how to navigate the process and ensure a safe and secure future for Lily. As the weeks went by, I focused on my own healing. I reconnected with friends and family, sharing my story and seeking their support. I started attending a support group for women who had experienced similar betrayals, finding solace in the stories of others who had walked the same path. One evening, while sitting in a cafe with friends, I felt a sense of freedom I hadn't experienced in months. I was no longer bound by the weight of Mark's lies. I was reclaiming my life, one step at a time. However, as I continued to gather strength, I noticed that Mark was becoming increasingly desperate. He began showing up at places where I'd be, trying to insert himself back into my life. His attempts to win me back only fueled my resolve. I was done being the victim in this situation. I was ready to fight for my future. Eventually, the day came when I filed for divorce. The process was daunting, filled with paperwork and emotions, but I felt empowered by each step. I was taking control of my narrative, and nothing felt better than reclaiming my identity. I was determined to build a new life for myself and Lily, one free from the shadows of betrayal. During the divorce proceedings, Mark tried to manipulate the situation, painting himself as the victim, but I refused to let his tactics work on me. I stood firm in my truth, presenting the evidence I had gathered and making it clear that I would not tolerate any more lies. The courtroom felt heavy with tension, but I knew I had to stay strong for myself and for Lily. Finally, after months of back-and-forth negotiations, we reached a settlement. The relief that washed over me was overwhelming. I had fought hard for my independence, and I was proud of myself for standing my ground. As I left the courthouse, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. The battle was far from over, but I was ready to face whatever came next. In the following months, I focused on rebuilding my life. I took on new projects at work, enrolled in a few classes, and spent quality time with Lily. I wanted her to see her mother as a strong, independent woman who could overcome any obstacle. With every passing day, I felt more empowered and ready to embrace the future. One sunny afternoon, while playing in the park with Lily, I noticed a man watching us from a distance. He smiled warmly as our eyes met, and I felt a flutter of excitement. For the first time in a long time, I felt a glimmer of hope for love again. It was a small moment, but it sparked a realization within me. I was ready to open my heart to new possibilities. As I stood there, watching Lily laugh and play, I knew I had come a long way. I had faced the darkest moments of my life, and I had emerged stronger. I was ready to embrace the journey ahead, filled with new adventures, lessons, and perhaps even love. My past no longer defined me. I was writing my own story.